Hi to all of our viewers. We're really excited for this conversation today. My name is Delaney McWalters. I am the marketing strategist here at Synergy Wellness Center, and I'm really excited to dive in today with Elizabeth McHugh. So, Elizabeth, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hey, I am Elizabeth McHugh. I am a functional nutritionist and health and wellness coach at Synergy. And I'm sure as we talk, we'll get more into my background. So we'll keep it short and sweet.
Awesome. So I kind of want to go back to the beginning of what got you interested in this type of work in the first place. Maybe you could just give like a high level overview of the type of work that you do and like what initially sparked your interest in holistic healthcare in general.
Yeah. So at Synergy, I do nutrition, but it's more than that, that I really take a full person approach. So when we talk about functional nutrition, we're looking at really a root cause, but we take into consideration really your whole life and environment and stress and relationships, as well as food, sleep, physical activity, things like that. I guess I would say I got interested in it really probably when I was young, when I first started getting introduced to coaching and understanding behavior. And I got involved. My BS was in psychology and neuroscience, but I didn't like conventional psych. I'm like, there's so much more to this. Like, it can't just be this. And so that started taking me down. That got me into really functional medicine of understanding, looking at the whole person as opposed to just looking at a diagnosis. And so I coached, and then it's like, it's not as simple as just changing behavior. There's physiological things. If your hormones are messed up or you don't have the right nutrients, it's very difficult to change behaviors long term. So then I got a nutrition degree and kind of pull it all together to be able to offer a full person approach.
That's awesome. That's very in my opinion, it's very unique that you kind of started in this field from like a psych perspective, because I feel like other nutritionists that I've talked to come at it from like a traditional like almost like primary care perspective, and so I just think that's interesting and unique. Can you talk a little bit about like what role you see nutrition playing in treating different like not necessarily like psychiatric disorders or anything, but things like anxiety, things like depression, things like even like PTSD, I don't know, like things of that nature.
Yeah. So it is so significant, and there are a lot of things that you can do, and there are a lot of things that show up within nutrition and within different deficiencies that can show up, especially with the gut. There's the gut-brain connection. This is getting really more mainstream. Maybe it seems very mainstream to me because this is the world I'm in. I was actually introduced to this probably when I was like 2021 by a psychiatrist named Kelly Brogan. She wrote a book, A Mind of Your Own, and she's either like Yale or Stanford educated. She's working in New York City. And what she saw is all the women who have depression, she treated depression mostly and anxiety, the medication wasn't helping them. So she started looking at lifestyle and nutrition, getting them off the medication and getting them off of different types of pharmaceutical interventions and taking a more holistic approach. And that's what really started driving me towards functional medicine, because of stuff that I was going through then and just knowledge I wanted to have. And so it's not always necessarily, hey, eat your vegetables and you're not going to be anxious anymore. However, there's absolutely a role that nutrition plays in it that our medical system really isn't educated in. Doctors get like maybe 3 credits of nutrition, maybe a few hours. Like, it's something obscene in their 4 years when they're trying to take a whole personal approach. But nutrition affects literally everything. Metabolism is all through our body. So it's just such an essential component of what we're doing and how we function that is often overlooked or ignored.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we see this like play out again and again in different aspects of the media. Like I feel like we've come so far as a society. I mean, maybe I'm biased as well because I'm in this world too, but I feel like more folks are realizing that you can't just take a pill for everything, that it has to be more more holistic because it's more effective long term, and it's also a big thing that we talk about at Synergy is getting to the root cause of a lot of these issues and not just treating symptoms. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when we look from a functional or integrative or holistic, they're all a little bit different, but all in the same family, right? They're all cousins. When you're looking at a person, conventional medicine, like let's say that you have trying to think of like something that I commonly see. Weight loss. I deal a lot with weight loss. And people will come to me and they're like, I'm counting my calories. I'm eating what I'm supposed to be eating. I'm doing all of this. And a lot of the times there could be like a blood sugar regulation thing. A lot of times with women, what I see, the stress response in our body and the hormonal response that happens because of it, because of conditioning through all of our lives, has made it so that at a point it's impossible to lose weight because our nervous system just can't get to a place. So it doesn't matter how well you eat or how much you work out, your nervous system and your hormones aren't in a place where you're actually going to be able to lose weight. And so when you go to maybe a traditional nutritionist or like your primary care, who will be like, oh, your BMI is high, you lose some weight, just add some vegetables and exercise and you'll be fine. It's not that easy. BMI is also not anything we really should be using regularly for a marker. It's much more complex than that. And the way that the integrative functional lifestyle, et cetera, model looks at it is they're finding out what's going on with you as a person and how can this implement. There can be environmental things. Like I've had people who, because of mold toxicity, there's literally mold in their house and they were doing everything right. But because there's mold in their house, their body and metabolism can't function the way it's supposed to function because of what's going on environmentally. So there are different forms of stress that come on that we typically try to understand and look at with that whole picture, as opposed to just being like, oh, just eat some vegetables or here's whatever. It's like, Ozempic is great in a lot of ways. And once you get off it, did your lifestyle change? Is everything around it going to change? Does it going to change your metabolism long-term? Things like that. So you kind of have to weigh. There's not an easy fix all when it comes to health.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, functional nutrition really gets at the crux of that and really sort of attacks that head on, which is why the relationship in working with someone like you, I think, is so important and such a huge part of being successful in, a type of program that you might put together for someone or a plan or what have you. Can you talk a little bit about like how you approach like a new relationship with a client? Like what does it, what does it look like to engage with you, and like what are some of those like initial conversations that you're having?
Yeah, so I might not be for everyone. I know that. I'm very direct. Typically we'll have a conversation, I'll listen to what you need, and I'll let you know how I would approach it. I am not the type of practitioner that is going to tell you, hey, you need to do this. And if you don't do this, there's going to be shame or there's going to be anything around it. If we decide that you're going to do something and you fail and you're like, Elizabeth, that didn't work, we'll figure out why it didn't work. I'm very realistic about life. I'm very realistic about food. I love food. I'm Greek. I eat things that you shouldn't eat or whatever whatever people say. So my philosophy is there's really no good or bad food necessarily, because there's so much culture and there's so much love and there's so many things that go around our food choices and alcohol choices and things like that. What my goal is working together is you getting to a place where you understand the consequences and you're making a choice before you engage in the behavior. A lot of the times this will shift. I'll have people come to me and be like, what I'm doing is not sustainable right now for trying to do like an elimination diet. And after a few weeks, it is sustainable for them. They are able to do it. And there's a couple reasons that happen. One, there's not the pressure to make it sustainable long-term. Like, I want you to see how good you can feel. And then you get to decide what's sustainable for you, understanding that if I eat this, this may happen. If I drink this, this may happen. So I'm very realistic. I'm also very direct and forward. So I'm challenging. And if I hear something going on or something that I don't perceive to be helping you within a physiological standpoint, best case nutrition standpoint, I'll challenge that. From a behavioral standpoint, it's your life and it's your body. It's really not, I'm here to help you help yourself. It's not my business to tell you how to live your life. You get to choose that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just that like awareness piece is huge, right? Because there's so like something that I struggle with is just being able to figure out like what is going, like I have IBS, for example. So like what is going to trigger my IBS. And it's like, okay, I may go on a vacation and like choose to eat like fried foods or something because I'm on vacation. And at least I know like, hey, like this is like, you're going to suffer later on. Like, you know, versus just living in this land of thinking that you're eating super clean and healthy. And then, whatever that looks like to you, and then still suffering with these different symptoms and just being clueless about what's actually triggering it. Like there's so much value in the knowing piece of it as well, along with the behavior change. But you just feel much more empowered to make your own decisions, I feel.
Exactly. And IBS is a really good example too, because when you get into anxiety and stress, this will happen a lot. Sometimes I'll have patients eat a food and they're like, this didn't bother me. Why did it bother me today? I'm like, well, what's going on in your life?
Yeah.
You know, what stressors are going on? Because that is such a big component on how your body reacts to everything, that we have to create that awareness as well. So the name of the game is creating awareness around how you're experiencing life, but also what you're putting in your body.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you go about like determining goals with a client? Like maybe some people will come to you with a specific quote unquote issue or a specific like want or need, but my guess is that you kind of dig a bit deeper and get to like, what are you actually after? So talk me through what that process looks like.
Yeah, so they'll come to me and be like, hey, what do you need? What are you here for? And they'll say well-being or weight loss or optimization, sometimes longevity, whatever it is. And I'll say, okay, what does that mean to you? What does that look like? And then what's the biggest thing that stands in your way? And we'll start breaking it down. So if it's a 3-month, 4-month package, okay, the 4 months, what would you like to see if everything goes great? And if they're like, I want to lose 100 pounds, I'd be like, no, that's not reasonable to do healthily. But if they, whatever they want to see, and then we'll just break it down to see what's realistic, what's reasonable, and what the barriers are. Typically, when people, and this is why I think behavior change is so important to have, and the understanding of my background in coaching is so essential in nutrition. What people come in for is not typically what the problem is. And that's where really, even at Synergy, having that integrative model and having the acupuncture and the counseling, all the different things and different offerings is so essential, because there's experts to be able to address the things. What you go in for might not be the actual problem. So I work with people that will be able to help where I don't have an expertise in being able to understand that.
Yeah. Yeah, which is huge, because we all have these like surface level wants and needs, but what's actually going to impact us the most long term is really how you're going to get the most value out of the relationship. And then you'll also see all these other things happen alongside of it. It's just my own experience from working with different functional providers. Are you still pursuing your doctorate in clinical nutrition?
So I paused because of I'm having a baby in December, and I couldn't.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't do the 2 under 2, and I had the baby and the pregnancy, and I got pregnant when Maya was 14 months. So I did pause that after the baby. I paused with Maya, so after the baby, we'll revisit pursuing that. But yeah, I stopped this summer.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Congrats. So how do you, we talked a little bit about this, but I guess for someone that is coming to work with you for the first time, and they're really eager to like jump right in, and they're really motivated to like do all the things, like how do you sort of not manage expectations, but like make it less likely that they'll burn out or that they'll, kind of give up 3 weeks in because they haven't seen a certain type of result that they were wanting. Like, how do we kind of like have those conversations?
Yeah. So if someone comes to me and they're, I want to lose 10 pounds in a month, I say, okay, why? What does this look like? What have you done before? XYZ. And if they're adamant about it, I'll ask them, what's going to happen if you don't lose the 10 pounds? I'll ask if this happens. I also let people fail. I expect people to fail. I want people to fail while they're with me because I have the experience to be able to help them, again, help them help themselves to overcome that. We're always going to fail. It's a part of behavior change. It's a part of the human condition. But failure is not a bad thing. It's like 1,000 ways to not make a light bulb, right? Like I totally embrace that. I want it to happen. So I really aim to create the space of like, hey, if and when this happens, come back so we can figure out how to make it sustainable. What does this feel like? So I'll ask a lot of reflecting questions because some people can just flip a switch and they're able to do it and they're good and whatever happens, happens. Other people aren't that much. Other people, it's up and down. So someone's like, I'm gonna lose 10 pounds in a month. I'm like, maybe. Some people can healthily. It's not going to sustain. It's not sustainable for long term, especially the way that I practice nutrition. I would tell them from a clinical standpoint, if you're losing a pound a week on average, that's a win. Some people, they'll lose 2 pounds, they'll lose weight for 2 or 3 weeks. They'll hit a plateau for a couple weeks. They'll lose weight. You're always going to hit a plateau. Your body's got to everything's got to readjust. That's totally normal. And so I put a context to their expectations, but I also, like, if you think you're going to go light the world's on fire and you feel like you got it and you're not going to burn out, like, let's roll. Like, who am I to tell you no? But also if and when you fail, it's okay too. We'll figure it out and we'll find that motivation or whatever you need again.
Yeah. And I think also a big part of this is like redefining success and failure, because like maybe you didn't lose the 10 pounds. I mean, we've talked a lot about like weight loss in this conversation, but like there's so many other amazing benefits to like getting your nutrition in check. I mean, again, as someone with IBS, like I've experienced not having symptoms for a period of time, which is life-changing in a lot of ways, and for some people it's like the list goes on and on about like what success can potentially look like. Like maybe it's just, you were meal planning for 4 weeks straight. You were being more mindful at parties. You were, like there's so many different ways to look at it. And I'm also a big advocate of like the non-linear path to success, right? Like we don't start at the bottom of the staircase and take it like one step at a time. Like often the path to success looks like that, and you end up, much better off in the long term. So I think I just encourage folks to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And funny enough, when I practice, I don't check weight. I don't care. I tend to see a lot of weight loss because that's what I'm saying. Like people will come to me for weight loss and has nothing to do with weight loss. We will talk about Whole30 names on like non-scale victories. That's kind of where that came from. How do you feel? What's your mood? Like creating that awareness in your body, because it's important, because if you're symptom free and you're not losing weight, who cares? Right? Like how is your quality of life improved by eating this way or sleeping this way or whatever? Like what really matters for you? What is the weight loss going to bring you? And people are like, well, it will bring me this, this, and this. Well, what if you can achieve that without losing weight? Yeah. Right? Sometimes weight can get really, really complicated in a lot of ways. And sometimes it's really easy. I just had a client that came to me. We didn't talk about weight loss once. We just focused on other things and she lost 20 pounds. That happens too, right? Like it just, weight loss is an easy thing for people to think about, but it's not something I typically track because there's so many other indicators of how food is affecting you than your weight.
Yeah. So in terms of people that might be interested in working with a functional nutritionist, obviously there's people that, are looking for weight loss. There's people that want to manage, get to the root cause of different symptoms, of different conditions. What other types of folks are you working with?
So I see a lot of typically I tend to have women who are high, like doing everything, right? And need the space to take care of themselves and what that looks like. So they may have IBS, they may have IBD. I've worked with both. I've worked with a lot of it's insulin resistance, which comes again to weight loss. That's what you're going to see with women because that's what we're conditioned for. With functional nutritionists, this isn't necessarily my expertise, but you could do brain health. There's a lot of stuff for like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. You start getting into really niche groups. My group has always tend to be around weight loss, insulin resistance, people who have diabetes or pre-diabetic. I tend to see people who are pre-diabetic, which again is insulin resistance, and then longevity and optimization. I have done some optimization work with men. Funny, women don't come to me for optimization, but I've had men come to me for optimization. But really anything that has people tend to get to functional medicine and functional nutrition when they feel like the conventional system has failed them, when they've gone through the gamut and they've been to all of the different specialties and they're still not getting answers and they're just like, here, take a pill.
Yeah.
And that's typically by the time they get to me, they have been through it, which can be hard because there's medical trauma in that. And there's a bunch of other things that come with that there's a level of distrust as well. So I've seen a lot because I've worked with different physicians. I would say my expertise does happen to be around insulin resistance, stress, weight loss, and managing through that, and gut health, because that is just tied to everything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, it's really interesting that women don't come to you for optimization. I wonder if that's just like a social conditioning thing or whatever, but I won't.
I don't even know if they have the space. I don't even know if it occurs to them. I mean, there are women that do optimization, but it's not like that's it's always been all the men that I've worked with have started, but they've stayed with me because they want optimization.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if a man has just come to me, and it might just be because of I always got physician referrals, so it might be that. But yeah, I really haven't had a woman be like, hey, let's optimize, which is hilarious now that I think about it.
Interesting. Well, thank you very much. For folks that might be interested in learning more about working with Elizabeth, they can head to Synergy's website, synergy-wellness-center.com, and there's a whole holistic healthcare page. There's a nice little intro video of Elizabeth. We're very, very transparent about our pricing and expectations and sort of the logistical side of all of this. So all that information can be found on that webpage. And you can also always contact us through the website if you have questions or want to talk to somebody on our team. So thank you very much, Elizabeth. This was great.
Yeah, thanks, Delaney.